All right, so now we're going to talk about ways we can manage the floods, and I think you all came up with some really good ideas on how to manage floods, so we'll talk about some ideas here and thoughts. So one of the things in the watershed, right, is what can we do in the watershed? And one of the cool things we could do in the watershed is there's a lot of bare ground here, right? There's like no plants growing on it, so that water is going to run off really fast. So maybe we could plant some crops or some nice plants like over here. This probably isn't going to run off as fast, right? It's got a lot of plants growing and they're drinking water, and so maybe just landscape the land and put more crops in it and plants. So that'd be really good too. And you know, maybe what we could do is, you know how frogs like to play in shallow water, maybe we can make some shallow water like wetlands that the frogs could live in. So those are all some ideas for how to manage the land and reduce the amount of water in the land. We're gonna think about the river too, right? What's in the river? Oh my gosh, there's a lot of debris in that river. Maybe we could clean out that debris, and that would help. This is called debris, all these logs here. So maybe we could get that out of there, and that would help the river flow better. Think about that, of how to get the river to flow better. And then, oh man, we get the whole land in the town, right? Land in the town that we can manage. And so some of the ideas there is maybe we can move some of these houses out, right? We can move them to high ground. So that's a pretty awesome idea, right? Move some of these houses to high ground, and then they really wouldn't have a chance of flooding, right? So that's an idea. Or maybe we could elevate some of these houses. We could build up some land here and elevate the houses. Yeah, so they would be way up here then, right? It wouldn't be as much of a chance of flooding. And then we have an idea that we could maybe we could build a levee, and we'll talk about what levees are, but levee would actually hold back the water. So it would be in here. I'll show you in a minute what a levee looks like. All right, so what a levee does is it's gonna hold back the water. It's gonna contain it in a river. So if you put a levee in here, it's gonna contain that water in the river, and then it has to get all the way to the top of the levee to flood the town. And so that reduces the chances of flooding, right? And we're gonna talk about more about levees, and we're gonna have you all design a levee, which is pretty cool. But whenever you think about managing floods, you got to think about all those different options. And a lot of times you can do many of those options all together to manage floods. So that's the end of our session on rivers and floods. And so our next session is going to be how do we manage floods and some of those actions, including designing a levee. So I'm excited to talk about that next. So thanks to Eli for building Frogtown Watershed and our demonstration, and thanks to the frogs for letting us use Frogtown.